Thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective, the podcast with subject matter experts in marketing. When you think of your own brand on LinkedIn, do people know, like, and trust you? Have you perfected that profile? Are you creating engaging content that makes people want more? John Nemo is a solopreneur, business coach, marketer, influencer, podcaster, and best-selling author of LinkedIn Riches and 7 other books. And on this episode, we'll discuss how to perfect using LinkedIn, lead generation techniques, creating engaging content, finding out how to find your passion and follow your employment dreams, and even a moment or two about Guns N' Roses and Prince. So let's listen to a shark finding Nemo on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. John, thank you for joining us on A Shark's Perspective, and it's good to see Captain Nemo versus Mr. Shark, kind of mano a mano, or probably better yet, fin to fin. But John, I've listened to your show obviously a lot before, and followed the books that you've had, and John, I'd like you to tell people a little bit about you and your career and how you got to be where you are today.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. I always like swimming with sharks, Kenneth. We'll see.
Live every week like it's Shark Week.
Yeah, so really where the story starts for me, kind of the quick version is, grew up as the son of 2 English teachers, had a real love for story and storytelling. That took me into a career in journalism. So I worked in newspapers as a reporter, and then I transitioned later on into public relations, got into talk radio, always different forms of content. And I'm a child of the 80s, so I remember the world before the internet, but was always, loving content and sharing and building an audience and being able to tell great stories. And so naturally that kind of transitioned into different jobs in PR and social media. And eventually in 2012, I was really tired of the corporate life. I couldn't stand the red tape and the politics, and I had always just kind of wanted to go out on my own. And so I took a huge leap. Back in 2012, I, at the time, had 3 young boys, and my wife was home taking care of our kids. And, I had a safe day job. I was totally fine. I was not going to get fired. I had it easy, right? But I just had this itch, and I was like, I want to go out on my own. I want to do my own thing. And so with one client, and like a lot of entrepreneurs, I have this crazy story, but with one client, enough money for 30 days. I jumped. I left. I dove into the deep end to keep our shark analogy going here, and it had to make it work. And I opened up my own marketing agency, and I had a wobbly folding card table in our bedroom at our house, and my laptop, and that was it. And it was really on me to go get clients and build this business quickly. And I didn't have a travel budget. I wasn't going to drive all over town doing coffee meetings. And what I found, and where I really launched, my business and my career, was I could use the internet and LinkedIn specifically to really replicate, how you go about finding and selling your services to people, in real life. And so what I was able to do in just 90 days using LinkedIn, and this is all the way back in 2012, I was able to generate 6 figures in revenue for this new marketing agency I created. And so pretty soon I had to hire employees, and it started growing very quickly, and there's a ton of lessons involved in that whole journey. And now where I'm at, 6 years later, is really I've taken, what I learned on LinkedIn, and, I closed up the marketing agency just because I didn't like all the client work and all the paperwork and the employees. And I was like, I want to get back to what I love to do, which is to teach and create and share and help and motivate and inspire. And so what I do now, Kenneth, is I do online courses. So I have an online course on LinkedIn called LinkedIn Riches. I have an online course on how to sell your product or services with webinars. I have an online course coming out on content marketing. And I write books. I create online courses. I love teaching and training people, just like, coming full circle with 2 parents that were teachers. I teach now, but my classroom is the world. Like, that's the great thing, is we have a global classroom to sell our products and services, and really teaching does sell. And if you understand how to monetize your knowledge, what's between your ears, and how to do it in a way that's, engaging and informative and enjoyable, people will pay you money, and they will buy your products, and they will hire you to coach them, and they'll purchase your courses. And so that's been a real blessing for me. A lot of hard work, a lot of lessons, but that's where we're at right now.
Well, I can't believe that the allure of red tape and corporate slowness isn't something that you would just want to jump back into and just, report to a boss that doesn't agree 100% with what you want to do. So
It was the worst. Yeah, I don't miss it.
So you're a best-selling author, and you have a new with LinkedIn Riches, and you have a new book coming out. It's your I believe it's your eighth book, right?
Yeah, it's called Content Marketing Made Easy, and it's really about this whole journey. It's really about understanding, a simple step-by-step system to utilize blog posts and podcasts and videos and social media updates, whatever it might be. How to utilize content that you create to win new business, to get new clients, new customers. I
When
mean,
is the
this is
book coming out?
It'll be coming out in a couple months from right now. I've got the book done and written, but what I'm doing to kind of pull the curtain back is I'm building an online course that's a companion to the book. And so, really, the way that I market my products with content marketing is, I give and give and give a ton of great value, for free or for very little cost. And then I use it like a funnel, like links in a chain. So, when the book comes out, that's going to be a great introduction to how to do content marketing. And what I'm going to do is people are going to be able to read and understand, oh, okay, this is what content marketing is. This is why it's important for my business. Here's some simple ways I can utilize it. Here's the type of content that will really resonate with people. And I'm sprinkling in lots of great stories so people are entertained. And then what I do is I connect that to my online world, and I say, if you want more of this, if you want free training videos, if you want examples and templates, go over here to this website that I'll have, and they're going to be able to log in, sign up for the free tips, and then they'll be now put into my email list where they get more content and more tips and more help. And then eventually I'm going to say, if you really like this, if you really want to expedite the process, get all my best tips, get my one-on-one help, and I'm even going to offer to create content for people as part of this course, then you can purchase this online course. And so that, in a very quick nutshell, is how my business runs. Is I create content, or anyone listening, you create a piece of content aimed at a specific person, audience, right? For me, it's business coaches and consultants, entrepreneurs. What are the problems they have that I can solve, and then moving through, to the end result of selling them a product or service.
So going back even to LinkedIn Riches, and I've heard you speak on a podcast before. One of the things I'd like you to at least discuss and tell people is about how there are no more boundaries. I've heard you use the phrase a lot of times, the gatekeepers are gone. Talk little bit about being an author of multiple books and how you can promote and market that in the world we're in today.
Yeah, and I got a flashback to the 80s where I was wearing my tube socks and going to the arcade with a pocket full of quarters, right? Like, back before the internet existed, if you wanted to have a talk radio show, Kenneth, you had to work at a radio station or you had to buy advertising. Like, you couldn't just get your voice broadcast around the world. It just didn't happen. If you wanted people to read words that you wrote, you had to get a book deal or a literary agent, or you had to work for a newspaper or a magazine, or you had to buy advertising. There were gatekeepers in place to stop you from doing that. If you wanted to have a television program and create videos and have people see you, you had to own a TV station or work for one or buy advertising. Those days are gone. Like, it is the Wild West now. Like, anyone with an iPhone and a data plan can become a media company. You can create videos. You can record yourself with a little selfie stick and create a YouTube channel, right? And you can monetize your knowledge, and you can immediately become successful. Anyone with a computer, go to your public library, free internet, and start a blog. Like, the thing about it is, I still think people don't really grasp how available the opportunity is now.
Couldn't agree more.
We literally live in the best time in human history to do whatever you want for a living and monetize that, to turn a passion into a profit. Because literally, you can reach anyone in the world for little to no cost with your content. The tools, the technology, it's affordable, it's easy. Anyone can do it, but again, you've got to get over some hurdles to get there.
Yeah, agreed. And I started in talk radio, in sports 100 years ago when I was 16. And was on TV.
They had talk radio in the 1800s.
It was those the 18. That's perfect. But I remember at the time being so excited to be in radio, and then in the last few years I did radio. And then when I got out of it and I started thinking about relaunching something with a podcast, Why am I going to go to a radio station and have to report to somebody else on the content that I want to put together when I can, put out the knowledge that I have in the forum that I want? And it's a lot easier to schedule from your house if you've got the right equipment. It's you can do it for nothing and really frame it the way you want.
Let
So
me,
go
oh,
ahead.
yeah. Let me give you an example of books. So, perfect example, you mentioned that you can now go for free and use Google Docs, which is basically their online
Yeah.
version of Microsoft Word and Excel. So, I wrote my latest book in Google Docs for free online.
Wow.
I can literally go file, export as an EPUB file. Google Docs formats the whole book for me, gives me a ready made file to upload and sell as an ebook on Amazon. You can upload your book to Amazon for free and sell it, for whatever you want to sell it for on Kindle. They have a platform called CreateSpace. You can upload a hardcover version of your book, have a cover designed, right? Do an interior. You can sell it on there, and it's pure profit, right? I mean, this is the world we live in. You don't need an agent. You don't need a publishing house, right? Your content, this is the other big thing I want people to hear loud and clear, Kenneth, is your content will either carry you or bury you, right? Here's the deal. You don't need anyone's permission to create awesome content that convinces people you can help them, right? Those days are gone. You don't need any stamps of approval. You don't need any social icons or statuses. Content is content. Either you create a podcast, Kenneth, that I enjoy and get value from, or you don't, right? But if you do create value with your podcast and with your interviews, I want more. And then you're going to tell me, well, if you really want more, I've got an online training, or I've got a course, or I've got coaching. Like, it's a natural thing. Like, you can win people over now with your content. The playing field is level. The best content wins. The
Agreed.
best quality wins. And so you just have to get out and do it. And that's why I'm so passionate about the new book and course coming out, because that's the opportunity. People just don't really grasp it or realize it, or they're intimidated and terrified of thinking they have to become Stephen King or, a talk
Right.
radio host. It's like, you don't.
You don't.
You just have to do certain things that will, and again, you've got to target the right audience, solve problems. We can get into all that, but I've built a career on this, and it's only getting easier now than it was in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s.
Well, and it gives people it gives people the ability to put out some great content and be responsible for it. That's another key, is not every content is great. So I think people need to think about building out, but if you've got great content, it's the world is your oyster. It's easy now. So
Well, and the marketplace decides. That's the
exactly.
beautiful thing. There's some kid who makes $11 million a year on YouTube playing with toys. It's called like
Exactly.
Ryan's
Yeah.
Toys. He's been featured in Ink and everything. And it's like, obviously he's got some great stage parents,
Yeah.
filming their kid playing. But my kids, I have teenage sons now. They watch other kids playing video games online. That's their obsession, right? The top gamers are millionaires, right?
Mhm.
All they do is play video games and stream it. And my kids can't get enough, right? And the money falls. So like the marketplace, this is exciting because the marketplace dictates the results. Critics don't get to tell you your content won't work. The marketplace does. People, your customers do. So the thing about you have to understand is you just have to create it and have an idea and have an audience in mind, and the market will dictate the results. If people love it, they're going to pay you for it and give you money. You can monetize it, advertising. That's why this is such a great time to be alive.
Well, hopefully Ryan's not waiting on his residual checks from Toys R Us to keep coming. So, so let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn. And I love LinkedIn, which is how I initially found you and your podcast and everything else. I don't use it always in the perfect way, but I do love it. I value LinkedIn like a 13-year-old girl does with her Snapchat account, okay? When I think about your own expertise, especially when you consider your bestseller, your podcast with the tons of posts you put out, I tend to think about LinkedIn, obviously with LinkedIn Riches. What was it, what is it that you love so much about LinkedIn? And, sort of describe also what you mean is in the riches or in the niches, which I've often heard you talk about with LinkedIn Riches.
Yeah, and this goes back to understanding everything about my story and how I built a whole company. I built my entire career off LinkedIn, right? And what it is there is no better place on planet Earth right now if you're in the B2B or business to business marketplace, meaning you're selling a product or service to other professionals. You're not selling hairbrushes to teenage girls, right? You're not selling ice cream. You're selling something that the business marketplace needs. It's literally Google for leads. Okay, LinkedIn itself, 600 million members, 200 countries around the world, 2 new members join every second. And LinkedIn takes all this data from all these people around the world. Every keystroke you make on LinkedIn, every piece of content, every status update, job title, company name, profile, text, everything is indexed and sorted and saved in this big internal search engine. So what I realized all the way back in 2012 was I can go on LinkedIn and use it like Google for my prospects. So what I did, and this is where the riches were in the niches. I opened up a marketing agency. So website design and video marketing and press releases and whatever it would be. And my brother-in-law, who's a very successful entrepreneur, gave me the best advice. He said, try to be a big fish in a small pond. Don't try to be everything to everybody. Because a marketing agency, I can help anyone, right? That's an infinite number of industry types and clients. And what I very quickly discovered was be the big fish in the small pond, especially on LinkedIn. Just dominate one or two niches. Make it all about those people in that niche. So, for example, I had worked previously at one of my corporate jobs was doing public relations and social media for a trade association that serviced debt collectors. Okay. And so most people, when they think of debt collectors, don't think of, oh, wow, great opportunity for marketing, right? But I knew these guys. I had worked for the trade association for a couple of years. I saw their websites. I saw their obvious PR challenges. I got to learn the industry and how the business models worked for collection agencies, what they needed, how they got clients, what their pain points were. So when I went out to do marketing, I quickly realized, well, what if I just put myself out there as debt collection marketing guy, right? So my whole profile was rewritten, not as a resume, not as John Nemo, founder, Nemo Media Group, marketing agency. It was written as John Nemo, debt collection marketing services, debt collection marketing, consultant, debt collection website design. And those were literally the terms of my LinkedIn professional headline. And then my profile page, instead of being written like a resume in the third person, said what I do. I help debt collection agency owners get more business and win new contracts by providing these marketing services. How I do it. I leverage 2 years of experience working for the industry's largest trade association, which they would know the name of it, ACA International, to hone in on blah 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 blah. Like I basically put myself out there as debt collection marketing guy, who I serve, debt collection marketing agency CEOs and marketing executives. And so this is what worked. So what I did was I set up that client-facing profile. I talk about this, the 3 Ps, right, on LinkedIn: profile, prospecting, and then profiting. So the first was the profile. Had that all set up. I focused on one niche initially. Second was I went and prospected, the second P. And it was very simple, Kenneth. I just typed in debt collection CEO, and I instantly had thousands and thousands of prospects, CEOs at debt collection agencies. So when they got an invitation from me on LinkedIn to connect, a personal invite, the first thing they did was look at my profile. What did my headline say? Debt collection agency marketing services, debt collection agency consultant, marketing consultant. That was not their normal experience on LinkedIn. Maybe it was somebody with company name X or, general marketing agency, whatever. They loved it. They instantly engaged with me because they felt like, oh, Nemo gets us. Like, he's worked in our industry. He's only focused on us. He only cares about our little corner of the world. And that was the secret sauce. So that was how I generated 6 figures in 90 days. Winning these contracts was because I was only really about that one niche. Now, in other niches, in other places online, I brought in clients from other industries. But just for LinkedIn, that was a simple thing. The riches were in the niches. And that's really, the third P is the profit part. And this is where so many people get stuck, Kenneth, is they don't know how to talk to people on LinkedIn, right? They try to marry everyone on the first date, or they spam them with sales offers. You have to treat it like a real life one-on-one coffee meeting. If I was meeting with you and you were the owner of a debt collection agency, I wouldn't immediately go, I'd love to redesign your website. It's $15,000. can I please have a free 15-minute consultation? No, like I had to court you. I had to do some professional romancing. I had to share some content and tips and ideas up front to help you see, oh, wow, this Nemo guy does know his stuff. He can help us. I'm intrigued to learn more. And that's really where it took off.
So I got a question about that content, and I know
Yeah.
you, like you said, you use this a lot with your book, which you use as a lead gen tool. But I'd like you to kind of walk us through some of the best tips in content value and creating something of value. And you give a lot of that away as a free lead gen technique, but central to that, you're exchanging something of value as the hook, if you will. And unfortunately, the etiquette of so many salespeople on LinkedIn baffles me to what you were just talking about. I get messages that say something like, basically like, you've got money to spend. We've got something to sell you. How about giving us 15 minutes to discuss your business? And I give those a big fat no. And I don't need them necessarily to produce content, but I do at least need them to be creative, which I
Right.
think when you talk about using it as a sales tool, kind of elaborate a little bit on some best practices and etiquette for getting people to draw in that either have or don't necessarily have content to try to engage them a little bit further.
Yeah, I'll take you all the way back to 1936, and my favorite book of all time for
It's when
business,
my
How to
first
Win.
radio show came out.
Yeah, there. Yeah, the horses are running.
Yeah.
Okay, so How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie,
Hmm.
revolutionized my business life. And my favorite all-time quote that I cite all the time is, "Your customers, your clients don't care about you. They care about themselves, morning, noon, and after supper. So everything needs to be about them." So I'm going to give you two examples of how I used content to win business on LinkedIn. I'm going to start with a very outside the box, unusual technique that won me a ton of business. Okay. And this is where you demonstrate your authority and expertise. Okay. And this was specific to a service that I wanted to provide. So, for example, here's what I would do. I wanted to charge people to rebuild their website, right? So it was a big project, $10,000, $15,000. I'm going to redo your whole website, blah blah blah. So what I would do is I would get a simple, cheap screen recording software. You can get it anywhere now, right? I would go on that debt collection agency owner's website, which usually was pretty bad, right? And I would do a quick 2 or 3 minute video, and I would speak, I would narrate and share the screen and say, "Hey Joe, this is John Nemo. I know this is probably a little unusual. I'm on your website right now. I after we connected on LinkedIn, I really wanted to just share some thoughts for you, share some free tips that I think could really help you guys increase your sales. For example, here on your About page, here's 3 things you could do differently." And then I would click over to a new tab and I would say, here's an example of a client's website we recently redid in the debt collection space. Notice on their About page, it has blank, blank, and blank, right? Or notice here, you could change this and do this. And I would just do a quick 2 or 3 minute video. I would save it, send them a LinkedIn message and say, "Hey, Joe, so glad we got connected. By the way, I took a trip around your website and made a little video for you. Thought you'd find it helpful. Here's the link to watch." And I would give them a YouTube link or whatever. Well, they couldn't resist it, Kenneth, because it's all about them. "Ooh, you were on my website. What do you think of it?" Right?
Hmm.
It's like asking someone to give you feedback on their house. "Ooh, you came in. What did you think?" So, of course, they watched the video. And what I did with that content, so to speak, was I demonstrated my expertise. I demonstrated my authority by giving them real, valuable, legitimate tips and feedback. I didn't claim authority. I didn't say, "I'm really good at website design. You should hire me." I showed them just very simply in 2 to 3 minutes, enough to convince them to get on the phone with me, right? To say, "Wow, I was really impressed. You already gave some great tips. Are you saying you could do that for us?" "Yes, I can," right? And then you could pivot into more about talking about the costs and expenses and proposals. But that was a simple outside the box idea, especially if you're a coach or a consultant and knowledge is your expertise. This is a big thing that I run into because I have so many students that are speakers, trainers, coaches, consultants, authors. "Well, how do I do that?" I'm like, show me your
Yeah.
expertise. Connect with me as a CEO and demonstrate to me, say, "I've been looking at your company and I have to ask, with your sales team, are you doing this, this, and this? Because those are 3 things I'm really seeing work well right now." Specific to them. Another thing you can do is just bottle it up and create it as a blog post. So here was another example I did for that niche. I created a blog post that said 3 ways debt collection marketing agencies can win more business with video, right? And then I
Mm-hmm.
proceeded to write out, or it was something like that. It was something like 3 reasons why your debt collection agency needs to use video online. Step one, SEO, people will find you. Google is the world's second biggest search, or YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world. Google owns them. So the more videos you put out on YouTube, the more people find you, and they integrate it with Google search. And number two, it helps humanize your debt collection agency. You're not the bad guys with the, nose rings and the tattoos yelling. You're family, you're good people. Step three is, you can really showcase your workplace culture and demonstrate to clients that you're professional and you've got a great facility and blah, blah, blah. And then I would say, these are 3 reasons you need to be doing video, but are you? And if you need help with a video, let me know. Here's an example of a video we recently did for a collection agency in Dallas. And I would put that in as an example of what a good marketing video could look like. When I would do that type of content, and I talk about this in one of my webinars, early on in 2012, I posted that on LinkedIn in a group of debt collection agency CEOs. In the public comments, debt collection agency CEOs were putting their phone number and saying, please call me. I want to hire you to do a video.
That's
like
great.
It was that fish in the barrel. Like it was amazing. Content marketing, demonstrating your expertise, not just claiming authority, showing
it.
Showing them.
Well, let me ask you, kind of transition from a marketing / business coach question. I've heard you say before, and I'm a big fan of this same thing, but not giving away your time for free, especially from a consulting basis. There's so many meetings that I get requests for daily just to open up my Rolodex for a Starbucks. And a lot of people are just asking for help in the career or how to do something with a website or ad campaign or something. I even had one person meet me once who didn't pay for my coffee after he requested the time. And I thought that was rich. It might have been that it was because I ordered a quad venti with an extra pump of caramel for my latte. But regardless, I stopped taking those meetings a long time ago where people would want me to connect every marketing employment connection I could make for them. And I love to help people all day long, but sometimes it can just be too much when they leverage that. So I love that you said that, but could you explain why you feel that's an important thing for people to not give all of their time away for free?
Think of it this way. If you walked in, this is how I explain it, because it's so hard for people who, your product, so to speak, your service is your knowledge, right? Your expertise as a consultant, a speaker, a trainer, a coach. It's, you wouldn't go into the Apple store today and walk up to the customer, service desk and go, I'm thinking about starting a new business. I'd like you to loan me and actually just give me one of your computers. And if it does really well, and if it does everything you say it does, and if I win some new business with your computer, then I'll pay you. Or better yet, why don't you just give me all your best stuff and I'm going to test it out. And if it works for me, then, I'll give you some money. Like, no, of course you don't do that, right? The same thing is true with knowledge. Like, people will say that all the time. Well, why don't you give me some free tips? And if they work, whatever. Or, even more so, meeting with people. It's just, you've got to value your knowledge because you built it over 5, 10, 15, 20 years of hard work. And your knowledge is valuable. And if you just give it away all the time to anyone who asks in any format, that's basically sending a signal that it really isn't that valuable. And it's shown and it's been proven I've seen this firsthand. Like, I've poured out my heart and soul to someone for free at a coffee meeting and they don't do anything with the information or the knowledge, right? Because it was free and they can kind of take it or leave it. What I learned was I don't have to be a jerk and be standoffish. What I now say instead, Kenneth, is, I'm really honored and flattered you'd want to quote unquote pick my brain for, a $5 coffee and get all my best advice on LinkedIn. But I just don't have time to do that. My schedule doesn't allow it. But I have a ton of free resources that you can utilize online. And in fact, it's better than meeting with me because it's all my best stuff bottled up, edited, and perfected. Here it is. It's a free video training. It's a free blog. It's a ebook. It's a copy of this. I use that online content all the time and say, if you really want to get good at LinkedIn lead generation, I've got all these free resources. Go consume all those on your time. They're going to help you way more than me just sitting with you for an hour, right? Because it's perfected, it's ready. And then if you go through all that and you still have questions, then I've got coaching and then I've got consulting. And what that does is people, if they really are serious, they'll go consume your free content. And if your content does its job, it positions you now to charge them because your free stuff was so good and so helpful and got them quick wins. It makes total sense to them now to say, dang, this guy really knows his stuff. Why wouldn't I buy his course? Why wouldn't I hire him to coach me? Versus, I've done this too many times and gotten burned and I never do it anymore. I came and I demonstrated a bunch of expertise, but you're just kind of not in the mood or not sure, you want to think about it. And I don't have time for that, right? I once drove across town because somebody said, well, why don't you pitch us? And, if we decide it's worth our time, then we'll pay you. It was like, why would you play those games? Versus you can bottle up your best content. You can still be helpful. You can still give people what they need, but you also then free your schedule up. And this is something I've noticed when it comes to creating great content is you cannot do that if you're driving across town for lunch meetings and coffee meetings and fracturing your attention or fracturing your focus. Also think about this, Kenneth. You can give a lot of great advice one-on-one to me at coffee, but that's kind of selfish of you. I would much rather you give that same advice to 100 people on your podcast all at once.
Agreed.
You can help a lot more people if you bottle up your best knowledge and give it away on these platforms. You're going to help way more people. And that's what I tell people one-on-one who say, well, call me. I want to learn more about your LinkedIn training. I say, that's totally fine. We could spend a half an hour on the phone and play professional footsie, or I can just give you this webinar. It's going to introduce you to me and what I do. You can see if it's a good fit for you. I'm going to answer all the common questions. If you still want to talk after that, great. But that kind of makes them do a little work and pre-qualifies them for me. Like, your time is valuable. You cannot get it back. And that's something I'm obviously, you can hear my voice, very passionate about. And that's where content really helps you still can be of service to people, but use your content as kind of that bridge before you let them in for your one-on-one time.
Agreed. So let's talk then a little bit about podcasting and a little bit about personality. I know over the years when I've done radio, and this is, people know me in general, I sort of am what I am. You're getting the shark, whether I'm on a podcast, an FM radio show, or an AM radio show back in the 1800s. It's kind of my personality. So, and I believe that you and I share some of those similar approaches to podcasting. One of the things you bring up a lot is you believe in know, like, and trust, and being who you are and being authentic. And so, describe how that belief has helped you. And then also, to follow up on top of that, how has podcasting helped your career? Specifically, we've got the blog and other channels with the books, but how has podcasting helped get your career moving forward and getting people to know more about the authentic John Nemo?
Yeah, great questions. I would say the first thing, to answer the first part of your question about personality and everything else, this is something I've really discovered because everyone has the same opportunity to create content now, because there are no gatekeepers. You're going to get a lot of bland, boring, copycat type approaches, right? Mm-hmm. What now makes you unique in the marketplace, what now separates you from the competition, Kenneth, is you, mm-hmm. is your unique personality. It's your communication style. It's your way of sharing your thoughts and passions. It's your sense of humor. It's your presence on camera. It's your words that you choose when you write. And so what I have found, and what's won me business repeatedly the last few years, is the more I am just myself, which you can hear. I'm goofy, I'm gregarious, I'm outgoing, I'm out there, I'm a loud American is what my students in other countries, say, but I am what I am. And people love it, because what happens is you attract people that enjoy your personality. You attract people that enjoy your style of communication. You attract people that enjoy your delivery, your format. You repel people who aren't a good fit for your business. You repel people who don't like the way that you engage. And if you think about it from a business perspective, those are your worst customers anyway. Those are the people that end up refunding or canceling or complaining because there's not a good fit. So when you are really authentic and personal and just unique and just be yourself with your content. So, your vocal content, podcast, videos, the writing you share, anything like that, the more you infuse it with your personality and your unique sense of who you are, the more people know you and like you and trust you, and the more memorable you are because you're unique. They connect with your personality. They feel emotional attachment to you. And that's really pivots into the second part with podcasting of even more so than video. Video is all the rage and I get it. But if you think about it, you have to sit still to watch a video. You have to focus, right? Whereas with podcasting, what I have found, Kenneth, is people can take you anywhere. They can take you on a walk with the dog, folding laundry, right? It's the passive engagement, but they're listening like crazy, right? And you think about it, I've interviewed a lot of top podcasters and really learned this. And what they've told me is, think about the fact of if you could have 1,000 people in a room listening to you for 40 minutes, wouldn't that be amazing?
Oh.
Right? I'm like, yeah, of course. Were you kidding? Like a captive audience and listen to me ramble on for half an hour for it. They're like, that's what your podcast is. Say you get 1,000 downloads an episode, and you can have all the metrics and measurables to see they're listening to you. And they're, when you think about the human levels of bonding and emotion and engagement, like we respond to people best when we see them face to face, right? That's why face to face meetings and speaking are so powerful. Second, below that is video, because we can see you on camera, look you in the eye, TV, everything, movies, right? Video. But third is audio. You hear someone's voice, you hear inflection, you hear tone, you hear passion, you hear enthusiasm. And I love podcasting because you can reach people at any point. Like they don't have to be sitting in front of their computer watching a 5-minute video, right? And also the consistency of it. There's like people say, you're part of my routine now. I take you jogging in the morning. I take you on my commute. I take you on my walks with the dog. You become a friend. You become a trusted advisor, right? They get used to you. And like you said before we started your show, I feel like I know you because I listen to your podcast. You moved into a new house and talking about your kids, and your dog, and like that just builds a bond and a level of trust that is much deeper than a blog post. That is much deeper than a social media update.
Yeah, it's definitely a more intimate level. It would have been creepy if I'd asked for how your wife and kids were doing by name, because that it could be a little too close. But one thing I do love about podcasting, especially, and I worked in TV previously, there is a little more intimate level that you get, and it also helps free of some visual distractions, because I'm a cat with a laser pointer. But if I can close my eyes and listen and concentrate, I can learn a lot more, and there's a lot more that creeps in subconsciously. So I agree with you completely. So as a solopreneur, a business coach, a marketer, an influencer, and whatever the appropriate title is, what have you seen has been the most effective marketing channel for you? And I'm going to take a big leap and guess it's social, and then sub to that's probably specifically LinkedIn. But after that, what has been the biggest channel?
Yeah, it's going to surprise you because I was actually not going to say those. Books. Books are my number one way that I sell my stuff, and both audiobooks and written or printed books. So here's an example of how I use books as a marketing channel. So what I have discovered, having self-published 8 different books and taking lots of online courses, is Amazon is one of the world's largest search engines. And so there are millions of people around the world. I think they have something like 400, 500 million users, right, that go on Amazon every day and look for solutions to their problems. So for example, people go on Amazon and they type in LinkedIn book or LinkedIn tip or LinkedIn marketing or LinkedIn profile help, like a search engine. And what happens is Amazon surfaces my book, and people buy it and people review it, and it gets ranked higher, right? And it sells consistently. And so it just becomes a resource. I've set it out there, and Amazon does the work for me, because it's like a search engine. And so I also use my book as a lead magnet. And so I literally give away my entire book, LinkedIn Riches, for free on the front page of my website. If you go to linkedinriches.com, you'll see a big picture of my book. It says, get my book for free. There's no strings attached. There's no upsell. It's free. You can download the audiobook. You can download a PDF version, or you can download a EPUB version for Kindle or iBooks. And what that does is a book, when someone reads a book or listens to an audiobook, they really, really get indoctrinated into your world. They get to know you and like you and trust you. And boy, do you have room to spread your wings and demonstrate your expertise. You really get them won over. And so for me, for my model, I want to get those books into everyone's hands. And what's really funny is people say, well, wait, if you give your book away for free, then doesn't that kill your sales on Amazon? And not at all. And the reason is, Kenneth, this will shock you, but not everybody online knows who I am. Right? Like, there are billions of people who have never found Nemo, okay? And so they find me for the first time on Amazon, buy my book, enjoy it, and then that funnels them in to my email list, to my online course. But the book has done the heavy lifting. So whether you buy it on Amazon or you download it for free on my website, it warms you up. It pre-qualifies you as a prospect. By the way, it takes none of my time. The book is one and done. And so it's doing all the heavy lifting for me, really convincing you, boy, John knows his stuff. These are great stories, great examples, quick wins. I want more of John. Oh, great. He has an online course. Well, I want that too. And it naturally lends itself. The book is the single best lead generation tool I've ever had. It literally, so many sales of my, $1,500, $2,000 online courses come from people that first read the book, because that convinced them that this guy does know his stuff. This is really helpful. I want to take it to the next level. This makes total sense. I'm ready. It's much harder to sell somebody a $2,000 online course if they've never met you, right? But when they read your book, they know you. Because if you write it the right way, infuse your personality, share great stories.
So then in your career as a whole, what is the most important lesson that you've learned in marketing?
Yeah, without a doubt, the most important lesson I've learned, I would say, two things. I will say, number one, it has to be all about your customer, your client. Make everything client facing, about their needs, their problems, what they want. Not about you, not about tooting your own horn and how great you are. Nobody cares, okay? Making it about them. And the second thing really is that the riches are in the niches. You can't be everything to everybody. Go deep on a couple of niches, a couple of verticals, become the go-to person, really indoctrinate yourself into their world, know what they, live and breathe and do. And we all want someone who we feel like gets us when we're a customer. I want to feel like, boy, Kenneth, he really gets me. He gets the solopreneur. He really is focused on my world. And that's why I can't miss an episode of his podcast, because he's all about me. Like that's powerful. And that builds that loyalty and that repeat business.
So Mr. Tube Socks with the headbands and the roller skates, you're a child of the 80s. And I've heard you say this before, so I have to ask you, who was your favorite hair band from the 80s?
Oh, Guns N' Roses, without a doubt. Yeah. I have an appetite for destruction to this day.
Nice. I sit between them and Def Leppard, but different kind of rock. But I know you're in Minnesota. What about His Highness the Prince? I mean, he had big hair. He's in your neighborhood. Lots of electric guitar.
I tell you what, I play guitar and I played in bands in college, and so I'm a huge fan of Prince, the musician, more so than the singer. I just, his guitar work, Purple Rain, the solos, just phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, I could nerd out on music all day, but Prince, Stevie Ray Vaughan, all the guitar, any guitar heroes is my jam, blues, rock. But yeah, and hair metal, of course, had its place. I mean, you can't deny the power of it.
Well, then, John, thank you so much for being on A Shark's Perspective. Tell people, if you will, a little bit more about where they find you, where they can find out more about your courses, your podcast, and the John Nemo experience, if you will.
Yeah, I think the best place right now to send people would be linkedinriches.com. That's kind of my home base online. You can connect with me, obviously, on LinkedIn, John Nemo. But start there, linkedinriches.com. You can get the book for free. Dive into that world, and then I explain to all the other courses as well. Once you get into my little world, we'll have some fun once you find Nemo.
Appreciate it. Thank you again for being on A Shark's Perspective.
Thank you.
So there was my conversation with John Nemo, the solopreneur, business coach, marketer, influencer, podcaster, and best-selling author of LinkedIn Riches and 7 other books. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from that conversation. First, Create content aimed at a specific audience that addresses their problems that they can solve, that eventually leads to the end results to selling them a product or service. And know that your content will carry you or bury you. If you do create content, then create value so customers will want more. Remember that the playing field is level and the best content wins. Second, make everything about your customer, not about yourself or your expertise. The riches are in the niches. Don't go too deep. You can't be everything for everyone. Go deep on what will best help your customer. That builds that loyalty and repeat business. Third, the gatekeepers are gone. It's the Wild West now on the internet, and anyone with a cell phone and a data plan can basically become a media company. As John said, we literally live in the best time in human history to do whatever you want for a living and monetize that in order to turn a passion into a profit, because literally you can reach anyone in the world with little to no cost with your content. And I'll throw in a rare fourth. Remember, once you do get the word out about you on LinkedIn or any other channel, be authentic. People should know, like, and trust you. What makes you unique in the marketplace is you and your unique presence and presentation style. Just be yourself and be authentic. Got a question? Please feel free to find me on LinkedIn or send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this show regarding another one of the many components that makes up marketing today. Be authentic and get someone to know, like, and trust you today. And join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.